Boring. At night, lying on your own bed. Orochimaru looked at the white snake skin in his hand and fell into deep thought. Although he seemed careless during the day, Jiraiya's words still attracted his attention. Tsunade knows psychics, it must be related to her family. In addition, the psychic slug changes size according to the amount of chakra, so you can use it no matter how small the amount of chakra is. So it's normal for Tsunade to do it. As for Jiraiya, he was taught by Hiruzen Sarutobi and used necromancy without signing a contract. As a result, he was accidentally teleported to MT Mayaboku. But what about yourself? Although there are many ninjutsu scrolls in my parents' inheritance, there are no psychic skills. Not to mention the psychic snake. Is it because he is a time traveler, so the opportunity that originally belonged to Orochimaru is gone? Boom. A sudden muffled sound startled Orochimaru. What? Boom. Another sound. Orochimaru determined the location of the sound this time. Is it in the living room? He ran to the living room in a few steps. His golden pupils scanned the room warily. Boom. Another muffled sound. It was coming from under the floor. Coming out? It feels like someone is hitting the floor? Could it be? Orochimaru thought of a possibility. That is, your home may have a basement? It's normal for a ninja to dig a secret tunnel in his own home. It's just that Orochimaru was young in the past, so he didn't know. Or could it be said that this basement was dug by his parents before Orochimaru was born? Orochimaru didn't have time to think too much, because he was eager to know, what is in this basement? My parents have been dead for almost a year, how come there are still living things? Finding traps or basement entrances is a compulsory course for ninjas. Especially when it is determined that there is an entrance to the basement. The living room was filled with many experimental equipment, and Orochimaru directly loaded the large equipment that was not in use for the time being into the system warehouse. Soon, in the far right corner of the living room, he discovered the thick wooden floor. The sound also came from here. Orochimaru knocked it, and sure enough, it was hollow. He wasn't sure what was inside, so he was extremely cautious. He gently drew out a kunai and carefully placed his hand on the edge of the floor. Squeak! The floor is lifted. Suddenly, a huge flower python as thick as an adult's calf appeared in front of Orochimaru. The giant flower python raised its head and spit out the letter. The golden vertical pupils look eerie. Orochimaru instinctively wanted to retreat and defend, but suddenly realized that the giant python didn't seem to have any intention of attacking him. Its golden vertical pupils stared straight ahead. After a moment, it opened its mouth and spit out a scroll on the ground. This happiness came so suddenly that Orochimaru was a little overwhelmed. Seeing this snake, Orochimaru's first thought was to retreat instead of attacking. Because in his subconscious mind, he thinks that he should be a snake player. If I kill snakes, how can I be friends with them? Fortunately, the result did not disappoint him. However, facing this sudden appearance of the flower python, Orochimaru still did not dare to be careless. After looking at the scroll, he immediately had a plan. While wary of the flower python's attack, he reached for the scroll. The scroll is nothing special, it just records the origin of the snake. Was this raised by his own parents? Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. Is the spiritual mark engraved in the subconscious of this snake, so he won't attack me? Thinking of this, Orochimaru glanced at this flower python. The three ninjas all have psychic beasts, and this Orochimaru knows it very well. The only difference is that the toads in Mayaboku Mountain can all talk, and although there is only one slug, it can also talk. And the snakes in Ryokai Cave, except for the most important ones, can't speak. In other words, the current one is also a non-speaking type. Can't speak? So, the original Orochimaru is how do you control these snakes? Orochimaru was lost in thought. Do I need to sign a psychic contract first? It seems to make sense. But how to sign a contract? Do we have to find Ryokai Cave first? Bah! When Orochimaru was thinking, the flower python suddenly spat out the message at him. "Do you want me to go down with you?" Looking at the movements of the flower python, Orochimaru asked tentatively. "Bah!" The flower python seemed to nodded, then turned around and crawled towards the basement. Orochimaru just thought for a moment and followed. Because he believed, with his current strength, he should be able to cope with any emergencies. The basement is not big and the light is very dark. Orochimaru hesitated for a moment and went back outside to get a candle and light it. Soon, everything in the basement came into view. His eyes. A special scroll and a long iron box appeared in front of him. Living room. Orochimaru was sitting on the ground, with two things placed next to him. The flower python coiled behind him, spitting out the letter obediently. Yes. Clever. This python looks very docile. At least he was docile in front of Orochimaru. Orochimaru was also a little surprised at how friendly this snake was to him. But at this time, he had no time to think too much, because the two things in front of him were even more attractive. Looking at the two things in front of him, even he couldn't help but admire them. It turns out that his father also signed a contract with the snake clan in Longdi Cave. Was this snake channeled by him to protect these two things? In the basement, there is a snake hole leading to the outside of Konoha village. It is used to catch food for this flower python. Therefore, this snake can live in it for a year. What a surprise! Orochimaru calmed down and looked at the iron box next to the scroll. The iron box was not locked, only a simple seal. The seal could be unlocked by inputting chakra. Soon, the box opened. Inside was a handful of sword, a sword shining with silver light. Orochimaru's pupils shrank. Sure enough, Cao's Hejian. In my memory, it was this sword that killed the fourth Kazekage Raza and the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. Although this thing is not a divine weapon, it is extremely sharp. And it can be long or short, weird and changeable. It can also be regarded as a murderer. A sharp weapon. There is a letter next to the Kozai sword. Orochimaru slowly opened the letter, and countless words appeared in front of his eyes. Boy, if you read this letter, it means I'm dead. There is no doubt that this is what Orochimaru's father left to him. The letter said that he got this sword by chance. Before going to the battlefield, he had a premonition that he would die in battle, so he put the sword in the basement for storage. The letter also explained how precious this sword is, and Orochimaru should never use it in front of others until he is not strong enough. Because it was so valuable, Orochimaru in the original novel made this sword smaller and hid it in his belly. Orochimaru raised his lips. In his memory, every time Orochimaru used the Sachi sword, he would open his mouth, and then a snake would come out of his mouth. Then, the Sachi sword would come out of the snake's mouth. To be honest, it's a bit disgusting. Orochimaru estimates that the reason why the original Orochimaru is so disgusting is because he used his own body for experiments and disabled himself. As a result, he has snake characteristics all over his body. So the current Orochimaru, obviously not planning to take this path. Putting the Sachi sword aside, Orochimaru picked up the psychic contract and read it. The one in front was his father's name. After reading the instructions on the letter, well, it will put your name on the back, and then use your own blood to make a bloody hand seal. Orochimaru nodded secretly and did it without much hesitation. After all, the psychic beast can also improve the ninja a lot. Fighting power. Although psychic beasts like snakes are disgusting, their fighting power is very strong. Didn't you see that Buntat and the slug were tortured together in the original novel? With Orochimaru's operation, the blood contract was soon reached. In Orochimaru's mind suddenly there was something else. Master, just give me the contract. The voice belongs to the flower python. Hearing this voice, Orochimaru was stunned. After signing the contract, I can communicate with these snakes in my mind? Haha, that's interesting. The flower python took the contract scroll and disappeared into Orochimaru's room into a puff of white smoke. Orochimaru looked at the snake skin in his hand and murmured to himself, I felt the breath of the white snake skin, so I couldn't help but want to come out of the basement. It's really magical. Could it be that this snake skin belongs to the white snake immortal? White snake sage, one of the 3 holy places, the ruler of Ryokai cave. On the same level as slug and toad sage. The snake skin that allows ordinary snakes to detect breath, except for white snake sage, Orochimaru can't think of any other snakes. But, memory, the white snake immortal in the middle is very big, far beyond what this white snake skin can match. Forget it, I don't want to think about it anymore. I can't go to Longdi cave now anyway, and I can't think of a reason no matter how much I think about it. Orochimaru, who had no clue, stopped thinking. Because he knew that Ryoji cave was a holy place and a place to learn celestial arts. He couldn't find it himself, and the snakes in Ryoji cave couldn't form seals like the toads in MT Miyuki. Use reverse channeling to channel yourself. Therefore, if you want to figure out the reason, you can only find the location of Ryokai cave in the future and ask clearly. After thinking about this, Orochimaru began to consider another question. Then that is, what to do with this Caoji sword. Although he is not good at using swords, this thing is a good weapon after all. He has already got it, so he can't give it to others for free, right? So, storage becomes a problem. Let him put it in his stomach like the original Orochimaru? He felt that it would affect the appearance, and this grass sword was not that important to him who knew the plot. He would not do this unless it was absolutely necessary. Sealing it into a scroll? That's one way, but the scroll is also something external to the body. If the scroll falls, the Caoji sword will also fall. This is obviously not possible. Then, put it in the system warehouse? This is possible. However, this also has a disadvantage, that is, when taking things out of the system, the space principle is used. There is no white smoke from the space scroll. This feeling is more like the different space ninjutsu used by the original Uchiha Obito. There is nothing wrong with the different space ninjutsu itself. But at my current age, is it a bit exaggerated to use different space ninjutsu? Orochimaru lowered his head and pondered, and soon had the answer after a moment. No matter what, under normal circumstances, I can't use the Cao's Heijian, so it doesn't matter where I put it. Thinking of this, he waved his little hand, the space fluctuated, and Cao's Heijian disappeared in an instant. After obtaining the psychic technique, Orochimaru felt much better. Because he knows that all 3 holy places have magic. Immortal magic is the key to dealing with the Otsutsuki clan in the later stage. In the original novel, Orochimaru's body was crippled due to experiments, and the frequent body changes caused by his reincarnation caused a rejection reaction between his soul and his body, so he couldn't learn senjutsu at all. You can only absorb senjutsu chakra from Kabuto Sennin. But it's different now. For Orochimaru now, everything has not started yet, he has too much plasticity. At the same time, he also has too many ideas. Early the next morning, Orochimaru came to training as usual. Before I even got there, I heard Jiraiya's purring voice coming from the front. Now, I told you that Orochimaru doesn't know how to channel spirits. You still didn't believe me. Should you believe it now? I could have asked it myself yesterday, Orochimaru said it himself. How can it be? Even you, an idiot, can do it, how could Orochimaru not? White, idiot. Bastard, how dare you call me an idiot? You flat-chested woman like a washboard. Flat chest? Could you please say it again? The veins on Tsunade's forehead were exposed. She clenched her fists, endless anger was brewing. Jiraiya was not to be outdone. It's the same again, with such a flat figure, there is no femininity at all. You bastard, you're looking for death. Bang! Tsunade punched out. Jiraiya was already prepared and dodged decisively to the side. Do you think I will be hit by you again? You idiot woman, Billy. Jiraiya dodged while turning around and making faces at Tsunade. Tsunade seemed unable to outrun Jiraiya and kept chasing after him. Oh, Orochimaru! Looking at Orochimaru who suddenly appeared in front of her, Tsunade was stunned. Orochimaru? You're here just in time. Tell Tsunade, do you know how to do psychics? Jiraiya seemed to have seen the savior, walked up to Orochimaru and said loudly. Hearing Jiraiya's question, Tsunade stopped what she was doing and looked at Orochimaru with curiosity. Because she also I really want to know this question. Orochimaru said calmly yes. Ha ha ha, Tsunade, you heard it, Orochimaru didn't, well? Before Jiraiya could finish his words, he came back to his senses. You said, you can. Damn it, you bastard, that's not what you said yesterday. Jiraiya was furious immediately, because he felt like he was being tricked. Orochimaru ignored him. I couldn't do it yesterday. But today I will. Varied, what? Jiraiya and Tsunade were both stunned at the same time. One night, you learned the psychic technique? What the hell? Orochimaru didn't bother to explain, and looked around. Where's the teacher? Oh, Sarutobi-sensei won't come today. He asked us to wait for you to come and go to Konoha Hospital to help. Hospital? Orochimaru was stunned for a moment, then suddenly thought of something. Then let's go. After saying that, he went straight to Konoha Hospital without waiting for the two of them. Because he suddenly thought that the hospital seemed to be the best place to get blood samples from ninjas. Hey, Orochimaru, wait. Damn it, you guy, don't you know what a team is? Konoha Hospital. Sarutobi Hiruzen is also here to help at this time. Bed 11, another blood transfusion is needed. This wound is very deep and almost infected. Didn't you disinfect it when you were on the front line? There is no way, frontline medical conditions are limited. Seeing Orochimaru and the other three coming, he quickly stood up. Huh? You are here, come and help. You are not capable enough now, so just be responsible for bandaging. Lake Biwa, there is bandaging work, just leave it to the three of them. Okay, alright. A woman wearing a white coat and a brown ponytail replied while cleaning the wounds of the wounded. Lake Biwa, Sarutobi Hiruzen's wife. She was only in her 20s at this time. Orochimaru glanced at Konoha. There are very few doctors and nurses in the hospital, but there are many wounded people. Why are there so many wounded today? Looking at the bustling Konoha hospital lobby, Orochimaru was a little confused. He also came here once during the first phase of the experiment. But the wounded were definitely not 1/5 of the current number. After hearing Orochimaru's words, Sarutobi Hiruzen turned around and smiled heartily. Haha. Orochimaru, you are quite attentive. It's okay to tell you. Because the fighting on the front line had eased, some of the more seriously injured soldiers were sent back to the village. That's it. Orochimaru nodded thoughtfully. So it was sent back from the front line? Is this war? Terrible. Jiraiya and Tsunade looked at these painful Konoha ninjas with unbearable expressions. Orochimaru, however, had already been mentally prepared, helping while searching for his prey. Soon, the hospital's blood storage room appeared in his sight. Well, the hospital was so chaotic that no one would notice him. That night, Orochimaru returned to his home after a busy day in the hospital. There are more than a dozen small needles arranged in a row, and there is some red liquid in the needles. There is no doubt that this is Orochimaru's blood sample taken from the hospital's blood storage room. Although he had a busy day, he did not rest immediately, but quickly started testing. Because now, after learning so much knowledge, he has begun to become deeply interested in these things. So, how could he take a break when he had access to so many good things? Ding, it has been detected that this sample contains water attribute energy, and the power of water can be obtained by fusion. The corner of Orochimaru's mouth finally curled up. Sure enough, flesh and blood is the best genetic sample. He knew that these detected attributes should be the chakra attributes that the blood owners could originally use. When Tsunade's hair was detected before, she could only obtain a small amount of life energy. And when this blood sample was detected, it was can you obtain chakra of other attributes. You know, Tsunade originally had chakra of 4 attributes, water, fire, thunder, and earth. From this point of view, it is enough to see the difference between blood and hair. The test continues. Ding, it is detected that this sample contains energy of 2 attributes, fire and thunder. When fused, you can obtain the power of water and the power of thunder. Ding, this sample was detected to contain wind. One genetic test after another, and blood data one after another were presented to Orochimaru. There are single attribute ones, dual attribute ones, and even a 3 attribute one. Ding, a special human gene sample has been detected, and the characteristics of this gene can be obtained by fusion. Special genes? System, check details. Looking at the blood in a small syringe in his hand, Orochimaru's pupils shrank. Host, please wait a moment, the system is being analyzed. The analysis is completed. According to the host's memory, the gene belongs to the Uchiha clan. Uchiha gene characteristics can be obtained by fusion. Uchiha. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. When testing Tsunade's cells before, the system showed that the fusion could only obtain a small amount of life energy. But Uchiha's blood can obtain Uchiha's characteristics? What is the principle of this? Senju and Uchiha are genetically equal, so why did Tsunade have nothing on her hair before? Is there a difference between hair and blood? It's not the host, it's because. After the system said this, Orochimaru quickly understood. It's because Tsunade has not awakened the sage body, so he cannot obtain the sage body by merging her genes. The owner of this blood is the Uchiha clansman. He awakened the Sharingan, so he can gain the power of Uchiha. Orochimaru has learned a lot of genetic knowledge after all. I know that cell or gene transplantation will cause rejection. What is the most awesome thing about the Uchiha clan? Of course the Sharingan. That coquettish eye power makes everyone yearn for it. But the spiritual energy contained in the Sharingan is so powerful that most people simply cannot bear it. Under normal circumstances, only the bloodline of the Uchiha clan can freely use the power of the Sharingan. Transplanted eyes like the original Kakashi's cannot be opened and closed freely. But now, according to the system, if I fuse this gene, I can have Uchiha's bloodline and even awaken the Sharingan? The more I think about it, the more it makes sense. 7 days later, the gene extraction task was completed and the gene fusion data was unlocked. Also unlocked at the same time is something called gene fusion fluid. After obtaining this information, Orochimaru confirmed his idea that he could fuse other people's genes. This gene fusion is more than just transplanting cells into the human body like in the original work, but a true fusion. Extract a biological gene, go through a series of processes, and then integrate it into something called gene fusion fluid. Finally, one creature can possess the power of 2 creatures at the same time. To put it simply, if this research is successful, Orochimaru can fuse other people's genes and gain other people's power. Integrate the genes of the Uchiha Kaikai clan to awaken the Sharingan. Integrate the Byakugan gene of the Hyuga clan and awaken the Byakugan. Integrate the genes of the first Hokage and awaken the body of a sage. Yes, it's awakening. Awakening using the genetic power of one's own fusion is not a simple transplant. Can gene fusion fluid perfectly fuse 2 different cells together? Haha, that is to say, if I master this technique proficiently, I can even make anyone have the Sharingan? Can anyone also have wood escape? Can you even extract the chakra of Ajura and Indra to cultivate your own samsara eye? It's getting more and more interesting. The task of gene fusion is to make a gene fusion liquid. Complete the mission to get 8,000 technology points. The next technology is gene repair fluid. Gene repair solution can repair any severely damaged genes and cells. Orochimaru took a look and realized that the technology points gained from completing this mission were of little use to him now. Because the things you can buy at the technology point are all auxiliary props, most of which are not needed at the moment. As for the genetic repair fluid unlocked by the next technology, he didn't care. Because right now, what he is most interested in is the gene fusion fluid. Therefore, with Orochimaru having a clear goal, the next days will be very simple. It's 2 points and 1 line.